All in all, the 2020 Champion of Champions was fun to watch all the way through. Even without the arguments, there was a lot of incredibly exciting matches and the players produced some brilliant shots. But the great news for us was the host broadcaster, ITV, created a list of hot shots, what they considered to be the best shots from the entire tournament. Which is good because it means we can mock somebody else for making these bizarre shot choices. Now that's not to say that everything they picked was wrong, but they definitely left out some of the better ones, like these for example. I'll let you decide for yourself, but I think there's definitely some shots on this list that don't quite deserve to be there. But I'm still going to be finding out how difficult these shots actually were by trying to recreate them as accurately as possible in the least attempts. As a lot of these shots aren't going to be quite as difficult as some I normally attempt, I'm going to see how many I can get in just one go. But we're going to begin with an important long pot from Junhui. This is a clever shot from Ding. He's playing this shot in such a way that should he miss it, he's likely to get a snooker. It's a difficult pot from under the top cushion, but really that's all it is, and I'd say my odds of potting this shot are about 1 in 3 from this position. It rattles in, and really that's a perfect start. Stun run through is where you play the cue ball below centre, but don't get it to stop entirely. Neil Robertson uses that right here. Neil executes this shot perfectly to get exactly where he needs to be on the blue and gives himself a good chance to win the frame from this visit. Again, this is about a 1 in 3 for me from this position. Just about on the blue, so my perfect start continues. Shaun Murphy here is taking on the sort of pot that you might not expect to get. From a tight angle like this, he's looking more to screw the cue ball back into bulk and safe rather than get the pot. This definitely seems harder than the previous 2 shots, but can I get 3 from 3? I was incredibly close, but just caught the near jaw. With this shot, it's only the pot that's difficult because you just got to screw the cue ball back a little bit. And even 4 attempts is pretty good for a shot like this. Dave Gilbert now, or as he's better known, the Angry Farmer! Managing to play a shot from really close range. On a shot like this, it's very difficult to just strike the cue ball and not push the red at the same time, and that's why you need to strike down on the white. But once you do, you only really need to find the right angle and you'll pot the ball. So is this another shot I can get on my first attempt? I was close, but just caught the far jaw. Even though this shot's a little bit harder than some of the previous ones I'd attempted, I was still a little bit disappointed not to have got it quicker. Judd Trump now playing what looks like a kind of trick shot. Now this one definitely is a challenge. Judd plays the red off the black here to pot it in the corner pocket. Before I played this shot, I wanted to have a rough idea of the angle I needed to play the red at to allow it to go into the corner pocket off the black. I even watched Judd play it several times, so I knew exactly what he did and how to play the shot. I'm pretty confident now that I didn't quite place the red close enough to the black. If I had, the first 2 attempts may have gone, so I had to play the red a bit thicker into the black, but I wanted to avoid it altogether and to get the cue ball back down the table. And we're going to be playing another one of Judd's shots after we find Marcus from Xi'an, China. Judd with another trick shot here to finish off the match. Right. The match was well and truly over against David Gilbert here, but Judd managed to pull out this trick shot to finish off with a 1-3-8. This is just getting your angles right and hoping for the best, but there's still a chance I could get it first time. As I haven't played any snooker matches in some time, it did take a while for me to get my judgment back on these types of shots. However, because it's touching the cushion, it does feel like it's a little bit easier to line up, even though it may not be. Between winning the tournament and the argument with Ronnie, Mark Allen had an exciting week. But before all of that, he had this close match with Scott Donaldson. Mark at the time was struggling, and it was shots like these that were crucial to keeping him in the match and ultimately winning him the tournament. Even though this again is just a difficult shot, I would definitely have chosen it for this list because it's probably the hardest shot of the entire tournament, and the last thing I wanted to do was smash the balls everywhere. After going to the trouble of marking the position of all the balls in the pack, I went and potted the next pot clean, which was good if not a little frustrating. At least before struggling against Mark Allen, Ronnie did seem to be in some good form. He looked unstoppable against Michael Holt, casually cueing in shots like this with ease. This was the first shot that was really going to test my cueing, but after the shots I have been playing in recent weeks, I was fairly confident I was going to be able to screw this back far enough. Just a little wide on my first shot, but it was clear for my next few attempts that I was easily going to have enough cue power to get the white back where I needed it. So 4 attempts again, which I was pretty happy with for a challenging shot like this one. Next shot features Neil Robertson playing something that I'm not going to be able to reach with my right hand, and I had to think about this whether or not I should play it with the rest, but I thought the best idea was just to play it left-handed, as I was going to be able to cue up to the ball so easily. I could have just played it on the other side of the table and mirror flipped the image, but I felt with a shot that was this close I could easily play this left-handed. I mean, not easily pot it, but definitely easily hit the red. Sometimes it's very difficult to see the correct angle to play the object ball into the cushion, but luckily on this one it felt fairly natural. The problem with this shot was although I could play it left-handed, I couldn't quite control the cue ball, so I had no chance of getting it in the correct position, although getting this in 4 attempts was still pretty impressive, or a little lucky. Sometimes escaping from snookers is all about having the right touch so you don't leave anything on. I mean, that's too hard. But if you want to get it right, you've got to look at Mark Selby. Whenever you play a swerve shot, it's incredibly difficult to judge the pace, but Mark manages not only to do that, but judge how fast the cue ball's going to come off the cushion with side spin. With this shot, I didn't manage to quite hit it slow enough, and I went into the reds a little bit too hard, but fortunately it stuck on them, which I felt was just about good enough to say I completed the shot. We have Felipe watching us from Pelotas in Brazil. Judd now playing a shot that may not be as easy as it looks. Honestly, when you look at this seems like it's the easiest shot on the entire list. I mean, he just pots a red that's close to the pocket, although the positional shot is quite good. But when you go to play it, it's a completely different story. To get the cue ball between the brown, yellow and blue, you need to play it with exactly the right amount of stun and left-hand side, which makes the pot incredibly difficult when it's this thin. And just because you managed to pot the red doesn't necessarily mean you struck the cue ball with the right amount of spin. I just very fractionally over and underdid it here and caught the blue and then the yellow. I quickly realised this was going to be an incredibly difficult shot to get right because you could run out of position just by potting the red a little bit too thick or a little bit too thin. Judging the pace was also a challenge, and it meant even when I potted the red I was still striking the cue ball a little bit too hard and not finishing on the black. So what we have is an awkward pot, and you've got to thread the needle with a cue ball at the correct speed to get nicely on the black. I definitely think it was the hardest shot on the entire list to get right because of how accurate you have to be. On my 13th attempt I got really close, but unfortunately I just double kissed the red. This took a long time to get right, and in the end I wasn't entirely perfect on the black with this shot, but after such a long time I just decided that was pretty much as good as I was going to be able to play. I think the three most difficult shots to play for me personally was third Judd Trump's in-off off the black, second Neil Robertson's double up into the yellow pocket, and first the shot where you had to spin the cue ball round the table. They may be the most difficult shots to play, but they don't necessarily mean that those were the best shots. So I'm letting you decide what the shot of the tournament actually was.
And you can vote for any one of these shots in the link in the description. And let me know if you think these shots were slightly too easy. I think there was one or two that were just pretty good pots, but was there anything more difficult that you would have chosen?
If there was, let me know in the comments, and if you want to see examples of how difficult the shots usually are from tournaments that I recreate, have a look at these two videos. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.